Hello guys and welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be building a mobile application and we are going to be using React Native for this. So what's React Native is just a framework that allows you to create applications either for Android or iOS with the same code base. And the main thing is that we use JavaScript for this. And to be specific, we use the React framework. So you might need to know a little bit of JavaScript and also React for following this tutorial, but you don't have to be an expert. And the nice thing about React Native is that actually compiles your JavaScript code to native code. The main features that this app is going to have is going to be a weather app, and it's going to pick up your location and then it's going to give you the weather, the current weather. And you can also change the unit system, from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And we also have some details about the weather, and we also can refresh the data so in case we have the latest weather. And what we're going to be learning building this is we're going to learn how to pick up the location from the phone using the GPS location. We're going to learn how to make API calls. We're going to use a public API to get the weather data, and we're going to learn how to make this API call. And we're also going to learn how to manage this data using React hooks, of course. And we are going to also learn how to show different things depending on the platform. And we're also going to be learning how to use components and styles in React Native. That's a little bit different from React, but it shares the same concepts. So now let's jump into the code. I am now in the documentation of React Native, and mainly we have two ways to set up a development environment to working with React Native. The first one is the one that we are going to use is using Expo. And an alternative is to use the React Native CLI, but I think the simplest way to get started is using Expo. So what is Expo is just a tool that allows you to develop and deploy React Native applications without worrying about native code and other things. So it's really nice. We have a ton of features in this tool, and also it's great because you can also use your code for the web. So there's a lot of tools that we have with Expo, and the best thing is that it's free for use. So using Expo, you need to install Node.js. I hope you have that in your system. So assuming you have Node.js in your system, then you need to install Expo globally. So for doing that, we're going to copy this command and we can install that in our system. Open a new terminal and you can install that. I'm not going to run this command because I already have this Expo CLI in my system. So now once you have that, you can run Expo version and it will give you what version you are. You can also run Expo help and you will have all the commands that we have available for all the tools that we have with the CLI. So what we want to use is Expo init. So Expo init will create a new project for you and we can give it a name. So because I have Yarn, it's going to use Yarn for installing the dependencies. I also recommend that you use Yarn, but you can also use npm if you have that in your system. So I'm going to give it a name of weather app React Native. So this is going to be the name that I want to give to the project. Now I can hit enter and it's going to ask me for some options that I can choose for creating the project. So we have the managed workflow and the better workflow. What we want to use is the managed workflow, because this is where the place that has all the tools that we need to create. There's also this better workflow that is similar to the React Native CLI, but also using the Expo packages. But we are going to use the managed workflow. And here we have some templates. So we're going to use the blank template. There's also a blank template, but that has TypeScript. And we also have some template that has navigation. But for this project, we're going to use the blank template. Once we choose that, it's going to install all the dependencies. And as I mentioned before, it's going to use yarn because that's what I have in my system, but you can pass the npm flag to use npm. It's going to take a while, so I'm going to stop the video and we will be back when everything is installed. I'm going to open VS Code. So VS Code is the code editor that we are going to use for this tutorial. You can also use other editors, but I think VS Code is the more relevant for when working with React Native. I actually need to cd into the project. So the project in my case is Weather App React Native, and now I can open this with VS Code. And let's take a look at what we have here. So we just have a couple of files that came with a template, and we have a package.json that has all the dependencies, and we have a couple of scripts. So we have this script will start the project so we can run it in any platforms, or we can also specify in which platforms we want to run the project. And here we also have, this is at the entry point of the application. Right now it has just a placeholder that we're going to run. And we also have this app.json file. So this is where all the configuration for your project is picked up. So this is, is the name that the application has. So also this is important if you plan to launch this to the stores, and you can change the icon. So the icon that's going to show for the stores, the Play Store and the App Store. And now let's open a terminal, and we are going to run the start command. So the start command, what's going to do is just going to run expo start, and it's going to open a new port when you can interact with your app. So if I type yarn start or npm run start, if you used npm, it's going to start the project. It's going to open a new tab in your browser. So if we take a look, there's a couple of, this is just the log information that we have when we run our packages, and we can see that the package is running in this port. So here we can do a couple of things. So we can run this application in several places. So we're going to use, of course, we can run it even in the browser, but we are going to run this in either a device or an emulator. So if you want to run this in your device, you have two options. So one is using an emulator, and you can also install in the Play Store or wherever you can install the Expo app, and you can scan this QR code and you can just use your phone. I think that's the easiest way. So you just install the application and you just scan this QR code. But we're not going to do this. We're going to use an emulator. So because I am in Mac, I'm going to use an iOS simulator. But you can also install Android Studio, and you can run this in an Android emulator. So now I'm just going to open the emulator that I have configured for this. And now I can just click here and it's going to launch the application. So the first time it's going to install the Expo Client in the phone. So for me it's just bundling the app, but for you it's going to if you don't have that in your emulator, it's going to install the Expo app in the phone, and after that it's going to build the JavaScript bundle. So as you can see, we have the application right here. So let me also show you how we can do this with an Android emulator. So I'm going to open Android Studio. So it's taking a while to open Android Studio, and here I'm going to open the AV Manager. So this is going to show all the devices that I have installed in this computer. So if you don't have any, you can create a new virtual device and you can pick up any model that we have. I'm just going to open this one that I already have set up. It's a Pixel 2. So once the Android emulator is ready, you can just click here. So this is going to run the application in your Android emulator. And now if we take a look here, we can see that we have the same as before. We have our application here. And this is one way of doing, but I think the simplest way is just to install the Expo Client. So if you go to, for example, I'm right now in the Play Store from Google, and you can search for the Expo app, and this is just a client that will allow you to just you can install this in your phone, in your Android phone. I think for iOS you have to create an account to be able to load your projects, but for Android you just open your phone, install this in your phone, and then you can just scan this QR code. You have to be in the same network. That's important, and you have to be in the same network. You can scan the code, and that is going to open your application directly in your phone. So once we have that, we can change our application to see if we have hot reload. So our application should auto update. So let's change this text. Hello from React Native. And I have saved that. And now if we open our application, we should be able to see that change. So as you can see, we have that change. Okay, I just changed the layout, so we have our code in this place, and we have our emulator at the right. So and now let's start with the application. So the first thing that I want to explain here is some of difference that we have from React in the web. So the main difference is that we cannot use HTML elements here. For example, you can see that we are not using any div or h1 tag. We are using these components. So these components are import from React Native. And for example, the view component, you can see this component as is the similar like the div component that we have in HTML. But we have to use this view component, and it's almost the same from the div. And for example, for text, we don't use like a p tag or a h1 tag. We need to use this component. That's the text component that is going to display our text into the screen. So these are a couple of differences that we have from React in the web. And another difference here is that this is how we create styles. So we cannot have the same properties, the CSS properties that we have in the web, but this is how we create it. So we add the style prop in our component, and then we are going to pass this this object that we import, this style sheet helper that we import from React Native, and we invoke the create method, and there we have an object that have a several. So this is like a class that we have, and for example, and in this class you can see it's actually it's not a CSS class, it's just a object property, but you can see it as a class, and this class has this style properties. So we have flex one, so everything expands, and we have this background color, and we have to use camel case. So this is similar to React, well, not exactly similar, but for every property we have to, every CSS property that we have in HTML, we have to use camel case. So we cannot do something like this that we have to use camel case. So that's, and you can change it wherever you want. You can also use colors. You can see that everything changed to red here. And yeah, these are the main difference that we can notice here. And now that we know that, let's start with the application. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to pick up the location of the phone. So for doing that, we are going to make sure that first that our emulator, if you're using an emulator, of course, you will have to do this. But if you're in a phone, you don't have to do this. So you want to go to features, and you can, this is for the iOS emulator. You want to go to location, and you can set up a custom location. So in this case, I'm using this location, this latitude and longitude. If you're using a phone, it's going to pick up your current location. So once you have that, it should, the location feature should work. So for Android is kind of different. So I have the Android emulator here, and I need to tap here, and this will open this settings page. So as you can see, we have location, and you want to search for the location that you have. So you want, and you can click in just like that in the map, and you can save points. You can have a set of points, and you can set the location, and that will, now the location feature should work in your Android device. Okay, once you have set up the location, if you're using an emulator, we are going to install a package that's not installed by default. So this is going to be an Expo package. So make sure to open the terminal, and here, because I'm using Yarn, I'm going to use Yarn. Well, you can actually use the Expo CLI. So this is better, because if you use the Expo CLR for installing packages, this is going to install the exact same version that Expo requires for this to work. So we are going to use Expo install. So this is just like npm install. And what we want to install is the Expo location package. So once we have the Expo location, we are going to import that package. So we can say import star as location from, and we are going to use the Expo location package. So this will give you this will import everything from location, and now we need to set up a hook. So we want to hook when use a hook when the component is loaded. So for doing that, we're going to import from React. We're going to use the use effect hook, and this is going this hook, what it will do is will trigger, it will be invoked when the application, the component is loaded. So this is just takes a callback here, and we're going to use a callback, and we can pass some dependency lists. So this is all the dependencies that the effects is going to take to run. So in this case, it's going to be empty, and because we just want this to be run when we start the component. So once we have that, we are going to invoke a load function. So this function does not exist yet. And why we need to invoke a function and not run our code directly is because we cannot write an async function here. This is a hook limitation. So this is going to be asynchronous, what we are going to do here. So we are going to create a new asynchronous function. So async function load. And what this function is going to do, so it's just we can add a try catch block here because this could fail. And what we are going to do is we're going to declare a new variable that's coming from, we're going to await the location, and we need to request for permissions. So this might be very familiar for you. So for example, you install an application in your phone that's trying to get your location, so you have to give permission to that application in order to work, right? So this is what we are doing. We are going to request that permission. So we need to request the permission, and once we request that permission, this is going to give us an object that has an status property. So the status can be if the user accept or decline this permission request. So we can say if status is different from granted. So if the user declined the permission request, we are going to return this function because we cannot run our code if we don't have the permission. And what we are going to do here is we are going to use a different hook that's use state, and we are going to create some state here. So the state that we are going to create is an error message. And for declaring a state, we have to do it like this. And second is the set function, set error message equals use state, and the initial value here would be null. So here what we are going to do is we're just going to set error message, and it's going to be we access to location is needed to run the app. So this is the location that we're going to display if the user didn't grant access to location. And as you can see, we have this. So we have this request permission, and we're going to allow this. So this was granted by the application. And now we have grant the permission, but we actually need the location. So for doing that, we're going to create a new variable called, well, this can be const location equals. So now that we have the permission, we can say await, and this is going to be a synchronous operation, location that get current position. So this is get current. This is going to give us an object that has everything that we need, and we can have some options here, and these options are not required, so we can just pass it like that. And this object has a couple of properties. So what we want from here is the latitude and the longitude. We don't want anything else. So we can get this deconstructing this object. So we can say that from location that coords. So this is a property that we have in the location. From property that coords, we're going to read the latitude and the longitude. So we have that. So we can now, let's just make an alert to see if this is working. Alert, and the alert is just going to be, it's going to be a string that says latitude, and here we are going to have the latitude, and here we're going to have longitude, and we are going to just display this to the user so we know this is working. Longitude. And as you can see, we have the alert that has the information that we requested. So we have the latitude and the longitude. So we now have the location. But why we need the location? Well, the location is just needed so we can make an API request to an API that's going to give us the weather based on that location, that latitude and longitude. So once we have that, now we're going to take a look at the API that we are going to use. Okay, so the API that we are going to use is this one. It's called openweathermap.org. So this is, if we open, this is a free API that we can use to query information about the weather in the world. It's quite popular. So if we can see here in pricing that we have a free tier that we can use, and it's a really generous, I think generous that we can use, and it has a bunch of endpoints that we can make requests. So what you want to do is you want to create a new account. So you can you can, well, I'm already signed in, but you need to create a new account for in this. If you go here, you can subscribe. So you're going to create a new account here, and once you have created that, you will have access to this dashboard in this URL, home.openweather. And here we are going to go to API keys. So this is important. So this is the key that we are going to use to make queries to this API, to make requests. So make sure to copy this API key. Now let's go back to our project. So we can just close this now. And what we are going to do is we are going to declare a new const that's going to be weather API key equals that string. So for now, we are just going to store this here. This is not the way we're going to do it. At the end, we're going to use a package to hide this, but for now, let's just hide it. Let's just keep this here. This is not secure because this can be exposed in your Git code. So we don't want to do that. But for now, let's just keep it like that. And now we're going to take a look at what we can do to this API. So if we go back to the documentation, what we are going to use, we have a couple of endpoints here that we can make queries, but the one that we're going to use is the current weather. So this is going to give you access to the current weather based on a location. So there's another ones for, like for forecast, but the app is just going to give you the current weather. So if we go here, we have all the documentation that we need for this app to work. So as you can see, we can have by city name, but the one that we want is by geographic coordinates. So this is the API call that we need to do. So I'm going to copy this here. Cons URL weather URL. Okay, so this is going to be a string, and here I'm just using template string, so we can have variables inside here. That's why I'm using these backtills. And well, what I want to do here is I'm going to create a new const that's going to be base weather URL, and this is just going to be the initial part of this call. So here we actually, this is not a valid URL. We have to use HTTPS for making this call. So once we have the base URL, the weather URL is going to be like this. So we are going to use the syntax that allow us to insert variables here, and this is going to be the base weather URL. So we have the base URL, that's this one, and next we need to insert the latitude. So if we go here, we can insert the latitude that we have. Well, it's not here, is here. So we're going to use the latitude that we take from the phone, and here we need the longitude. So we are going to replace that with a variable, and here we're going to use the longitude. So we have the longitude, and now we need our API key. So our API key is right here. And that's the one that we created before. And now we can use this syntax, and now we can use the weather API key. So now we have our URL. So this is the URL that we are going to make the request. And now we need to use, we're not going to use this anymore. We actually need to make the API request. So we are going to create a new variable that's going to be called response. And this is going to await the fetch. So for making API calls, we can make use of this fetch function. So this is really similar of the fetch function that we have in the browser, but this one is for React Native. And this fetch takes the same parameters that we have in the browser. So the first parameter and the only parameter that we're going to pass is the URL. So we have the URL here. So this is going to make the request. So once we have the response, as you might know, this is not a response that we can use because it's not already in JSON. So we are going to create a new variable called result, and this is going to be also is going to await for response.json. So this function that is coming from here is going to transform the response from the API call to JSON. So JSON is a format that we can use in our application. And once we have that, we are going to store this information in an state. So we're going to create a new array that's going to be current a new state that's going to be current weather, set current weather, and this is going to use the state, and the initial value is going to be null, and we can set that value here. So there's another thing here, is that this request could fail, but not because because let's say we have a wrong API key, so the server is going to send us a error message, the API server from weather.map.org. So we're going to check if the response, so the response right here, we have a so we're going to check if the response is okay. So we have that utility in the response, and this means that it has an 200 response. So if it's okay, we're going to set current weather, and it's going to be the result. Okay, and otherwise we are going to set error message. So it's going to set this error message, and we're going to use the result that message. So we have a message from the server that's going to tell us what went wrong. So we are making the API request, but now I want to show that to the user, correct? So I'm going to make a check here. So if we have a successful operation, we're going to have a current weather. So if we have a current weather, we are going to return. So what we are going to do here is we are going to deconstruct the information that we have for the current weather. So we can say something like this: equals current weather. So here, if we go back to the documentation, we have, as a response, we have a couple of parameters. So you can see that we have a coordinates, we have the weather ID, and we have this main property that has our temperature. So this is what we are going to display for now. We are just going to display the temperature. So we are going to access that. So for access that, I'm going to deconstruct the main property, and here I'm going also to deconstruct the temp property. So as you can see, we have that right there. So this is just a two-level deconstruction. So we're accessing two levels of this object from the current weather response. And here I'm going to use curly braces that is going to allow me to use variables, and I'm going to display the temperature. So this is just if everything went well. So otherwise, this means that if we have an error, we are going to return a view that's going to have the same like here. Okay, this is incorrect. And this view is going to just show us the error message. So this is going to be in the case that we have an error here. So let's take a look. And as you can see, we have the temperature. So this might look kind of weird. So it's showing this big number because by default we have this API returns Kelvin units that are really big. So this is not Celsius or Fahrenheit. This is a Kelvin unit that has really big numbers. But this is the current weather that we have in this location. And let's take a look what happens, for example, if I have a bad API call. So we should be able to see the error message. I see why we have this problem. So we are not setting the error here. So we need to also set the error, that message, and error that message here. And you can see that we have the error right here because we are passing an URL that does not exist in the server. So now we have the correct temperature. So we also need to catch that error here in the catch block, of course. And now we're making API queries. So let's remove this style here because we don't have that style. And so we want the feature to the user to be able to change the units. So we are going to create a new state here for that. So it's going to be units system set units system. And here we are going to use the state, and the initial state is going to be for me. Well, you can use the imperial system, but I'm going to use the metric system as an initial value. And here what we can do is that this API call accepts units and units query parameters. So that's what we are going to add right here. So we are using the AND operator, and units equals, and we are just passing the unit system. And as you can see, we have now this in Celsius because in the metric system, that's the unit that we use for temperature. If we change this to imperial, we are going to have this in Fahrenheit. So now we are using different units to load the weather. Okay, now that I have that, I'm going to display some information about the weather here. And let me check what we have here. So here, in the container, I'm just going to keep the justify content property. I'm not going to use the align items for now. And I'm going to create a new view in the main part. That's going to be it's just going to be a view. And here I'm going to give it an style that's going to use the styles object. And here I'm going to create a new style that's going to be called main. And here we are going to have justify content to the center, and we also going to have a flex of one value, so it expands we are going to move this from where I'm going to add that style here, and I'm going to move this right here. The status bar is going to be here, and we have the same thing, but actually I'm going to create a new component. So let's go to here, and here I'm going to create a new components folder, and inside here I'm going to create this component that's going to be WeatherInfo.js. So this is the component. And another thing that I didn't mention is that I'm using right now this React snippets extension, this one. So this allows me to have some boilerplate code for React and React Native. So for example, here I just can type RNF and it's going to give me a functional component in the with React Native. So that's pretty handy. I recommend you to install the same extension. And here I'm going to receive some properties, and the properties that I want are going to be it's just going to be one property for now. So it's going to be the current weather. So we are going to receive that here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that component here. Import WeatherInfo from components / WeatherInfo. I'm going to import the component, and I'm going to pass the component here. So use the component here. So here I'm going to use the WeatherInfo component, and I'm going to pass the current weather right here. Current weather. So I'm passing the current weather property with the current weather value, and I don't longer need this here. And right now we don't have anything, but I just wanted to make use of that information here in the component instead of right there. So I'm going to do the same thing that I have before. So here we have from the current weather, we're going to construct the main property that has the temperature, and we can display the temperature here. Oops. Yep. And there we have it. So we have that, and right now we are going to give it some properties to this component, some style. So I'm going to import the style sheet object utility, and here I'm going to declare the styles it's just a style sheet that create function that has an object, and here I'm going to create the weather info property, and this is just going to have this flex property that's going to align the items to the center, and I can use this right here. So I can say style equals styles that weather info, and we have the information in the center. So another thing that I want to do here is the API that we are using provides an icon. So we have an icon that is just a string, but we can make a URL, make it a URL. So as you can see, this icon property is in the weather of property, and this is actually an array. So we're going to access that. For that, we're going to deconstruct the weather property, and because this is an array, we're going to deconstruct that using that array syntax, and I can give it whatever name I want. So this is going to be, for me, it's going to be details. Okay, and we have all this object that has the weather ID, the description, and the icon. So now let's use the icon, and I can say I'm going to deconstruct that from the details object. I'm going to deconstruct the icon. So we have the icon, and I want to have an URL that I can request this icon. So I'm just going to say icon URL equals, and I'm going to use the template syntax here. It's going to equals https // and I'm just going to copy paste this. So this is the URL that we can make request for the icons. So it's openweathermap.org/emg/wn. So this is the URL, and here we need to pass the icon. So the icon string. So this is just an ID for the icon that we have for the API request, and with this symbol we can request which size we want. So we can request, for example, 2x, 2 times the size of the icon, but I'm going to use the 4 times the size of the icon, that be PNG. So this is going to give me access to that icon. And to display that, we are going to use the image component from React Native. So this is kind of similar from that we have in the web, but also is a little bit different. So this is we are going to use the image component, and here I'm going to use the source prop that this component has, source equals, and here I'm going to use the URI. So this is going to be a URL property, and I can pass the icon URL. And if we save, we can't see anything because we haven't styled that image. So actually, to see the image, we have to apply some styles here. So I'm going to pass the styles prop, and here I'm going to create a new property. So this is going to be weather icon, and this is going to have a width. It's going to have a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. So once I declare the style, I'm going to pass that style here. And if we save, we can see that now we have the icon. So that's great. And another thing that I want to display is the name of the place that this is coming from. So for example, and we can see that we have this property in the documentation, the name of the place. Here it says that's the city name, but that's not the case. It's more like the place, like the neighborhood or something like that. So I'm going to destruct that from the object, and I'm going to pass that information here with a text component, and it's going to have the name, and here we have it. We have the name of the place, and we have that, and now we need to have the description. So the description of the weather. So we are going to also use text, and here from the details we have the icon. We can have the icon. As you remember, we have the main property from here, and we have the description. So this is just right here. So we have the main property group of web parameters that says what's actually the actual weather, and we have the description. So this is what we want to display, and we can display first the description, and we can display here the main weather. And you can see that we have light rain. So this is the description that the API is giving us, and the main property is rain. So I want to do this uppercase. So what I'm going to do is going to create a new style. So it's going to be weather description, and here we can have text transform, and it's going to be uppercase. So this is what we want to apply here. Style equals styles that weather description, and where it's not uppercase is capitalized. So we have the first letter of each word in uppercase. Okay, we have all the information that we need here, but I want to have some other styles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to declare a set of colors that we are going to use in all this project. We're going to have a primary color, a secondary color, and for doing that, I'm going to create here in the root, I'm going to create a new folder that's going to be called utils, and here I'm just going to create a new file that's going to be called index.js. So we will have all the utilities for our project here. And this file is just going to, for now, it's just going to export a const that's going to be colors. And this is just an object that's going to have a primary color, and the primary color is going to be like an orange color. You can copy and paste this. You can buy or copy this from the source code below. And I'm going to have a secondary color, and this is going to be like a dark blue. And here I'm going to have a border color that is like a soft gray. So these are all the colors that I'm going to use across the project, and here I'm going to import that. So I'm just going to import from utils / index. I'm going to import the colors, and I can just say const equals colors, and I'm going to import my primary and my secondary color. So I'm just importing that, and I'm going to use that. So I'm going to create a new property, style property, that's going to be called text primary, and we're going to have a font size of 40, and our color is going to be our primary color, and we're going to use that in our temperature. So style equals styles that text primary, and we have that nice and big, so we know what the current temperature is. And I'm going to just copy and paste this degree symbol here, so we know that these are degrees. We have that, and now I'm going to create a new property that's going to be text secondary. It's going to have a font size of 20. It's going to be as our secondary color, and it's going to have a font weight of 500, and we're also going to have a margin top, so it's going a little bit below, and we are going to apply this here to the main weather property. Style equals styles that text secondary. We have an issue here. Oh, font style. This is wrong. This is not font style. This is font size. And there we have it. We have that with some styles here. And I think that's mainly what we want here in this main property, in this weather info component. So we have the place, we have the icon, we have the temperature, and we have some description. So now that I have all the information that I want here, I want to have a way to change in the unit systems, from Celsius to Fahrenheit or vice versa. So for doing that, I'm going to use a picker. So this picker is going to be similar, like a drop-down DOM element, like a drop-down. So, but this package does not come with React Native in the core. So we need to install that. This is very important. For doing this, we need to use the Expo CLI. So we are going to use Expo install, and this is going to install the correct version of this package. This is very important because not all the versions are compatible with the Expo version that we are running, and this command will take care of that. And the name of the package is from React Native community, and it's called React Native community /picker. So this is the name of the package, and we can just make sure that we can just install the package. And now I'm going to create a new component, and this is going to be named unitspicker.js. Here I'm going to create a new functional component with the snippets, and now I'm going to import from React for React Native community /picker. I'm going to, of course, import the picker. So we have the component, and now we are going to use the component here, and this component takes as children, it takes a picker.item element. So this is going to be the the options that the user can select. And here we are going to use two properties, the label. So the label is going to be Celsius like this, and it's going to have a value. So the value is going to be different. It's going to be metric. So we're going to use the metric system, or we can use Fahrenheit, and you can use the imperial system. So this is the properties that we are going. This is the picker, and now we need to import that in our application. So we say import units picker from components slash, and this is in our app.js file, the main file. We can import our units picker, and I'm going to add the picker in the main part. So it's going to be units picker, and this should show, well, this will show us the picker. And as you can see, it does not stay in the same position, and that's because we are not using any state. So we need to manage the state of the picker, and for doing that we can just pass the properties that the state that we already declared as properties. So we have the state here, and we can say something like, oh, by the way, we no longer need this here because we are using this inside this component. And we are going to pass the unit system, and we also need the setter for the state. Set unit system equals set unit system. So we are passing that to the children, and now we can make use this on the unit picker component. We have some properties here. So it's going to be the select value is going to be equal, and we are going to destructure the properties here. So we have the units system, and we have the set units system. So these are the properties that we passed to the component before. And here I just going to use the units system as a select value. And we have another property here that's on value change. So every time this value changes, we are going to trigger a function that we can write here. There's going to be a arrow function, and this has an item, the current item selected. We can say set unit system and pass the item right here. So this should take care of updating the state. So as you can see now, the picker stays in the right place, but we are not changing the value, and that's because we are not reacting to this change. So for doing that, we are just going to use the useEffect function, and now we have it empty at the beginning, but now we can add a dependent here. So every time the unit system change, we are going to make this API call. So now if we change, you can see that this is changing. And this is just one way of doing. Another way will be to manually convert that, make that conversion with some calculation. But I think it's nice that we can just make an API call, and this is because we are passing the units to this specific API this units param, query param, and we can send, the current value. And another way could be just to change the manually with some calculation. Another thing that I forget to do here is that I will want to set the current weather to null when we start loading this, just in case we have an error. So this will show the error. If this is null, it will show the error. So I want to set this to null. If you remember, in the initial app, we don't have this, like the picker. We didn't have it like this. We have it up there, and it wasn't in an element like this. So I'm going to add a new styles to the picker. I'm going to use the style sheet here, and I'm going to declare our styles.create. And here I'm going to create a new property that's going to be called units system, and this is going to have a position of absolute, and we are going to give it a fixed height and width. So the height is going to be 50 and the width is going to be 100, and I'm going to apply that to this view. So style equals styles that unit system, and now we can see that it's in position absolute, but I want to write here so I can also have a top of 0 and a height of, and the left property of 20, and we have it up there. So it cannot look, I don't like how this is looking. We have and this is because the way it looks in iOS. So I'm going to change this to a negative value, so top of 20, and now I think it looks better. But we have a problem here. So this is going to be how it looks like in iOS, but it's going to look kind of weird in Android. So I will show you how it looks like in Android. So now we are in Android, and as you can see, this looks way above. So this is just because how things works, how the picker works for different platforms. And what I want to do here is I'm going to use the platform tool from React Native, and I'm going to do the following. So I'm going to spread this platform in the styles. I'm going to platform that select, and this is a function that takes an object for every platform. So we're going to use iOS, and for iOS we are going to have the top value that we had before of 20, and for Android we are going to have a positive top value of 20. So now if we save this, you can see that this looks way better. And I don't like how this speaker works here in Android. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a property here that we have in this speaker component that's only available for Android. That's called mode, and mode is going to be, and this is going to only be applied in Android. In iOS it will only look the same, so we're going to have this speaker as a drop down. So now it looks like this, and I think that's better than we had before, and it works the same. So there's another, we're back in iOS, and there's another property that we can change only in iOS, and that's the size, the style for every item. So I don't like that this looks kind of big compared with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this item style, and this is just going to be applied for each item. And here I'm going to declare an inline style. So the traditional way of applying styles in React Native is the common way is using like this, but you can also have inline styles. So you can have an object here, and it's going to have a font size of 12. Okay, for some reason I had to restart the application, but now you can see that we have a font size of 12. So I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to use more up. So I'm going to have like 3. So it's a little bit up. And another thing that I want to do now is, as you can see, if we change, we have this blank state. So I don't want to have this like blank page. And for that, I'm going to add another component from React Native that's called activity indicator. So this activity indicator is just, like a loader that we have, and here, right here, we have this else condition. So what I'm not going to do now is else, going to add an else if error message. We're going to display the error message, but in the other cases, we're going to display that activity indicator. So we're going to have something like this, but here we are going to have the activity indicator. So now you can see that we have this loader every time it's changing, and I want also to set, every time we load, I'm going to set the error message to null, so it's going to react in any of these states depending on how these things worked. And here I can pass some properties. So I can pass a size property that's going to be large, and I can also pass a color property, and here I'm going to use our primary color that first I'm going to import that from our utils folder. So we have this in utils/index, and here we have our colors, and I'm going to use that here, colors that primary color. So now you can see that we have our loader working. Another thing that I want to have here is that I want to have, let's say some time has passed and this is no longer accurate. The weather changes every time. So maybe I want to have a refresh button that will allow me to refresh this if we have a different state. So let me add that, and it's going to be called reload icon.js. And here I'm going to create a React native functional component as before. Oh, this is wrong. This should be reload 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 load. And here I'm going to use a couple of things. So the first thing is in the template that we install, we have, it's really nice that we have a bunch of icons. So this is coming from Expo that install these icons, and the package that we already have is called from Expo. We can make use of vector icons. And here I'm going to use the ionic icons. So where you can find all the icons is in this directory that I'm going to share in the description. And here you can search for all the icons that you might need to your application that comes with Expo. And this is coming from the project vector icons. And I can search for reload. So we have a couple of icons here, but the one that I'm going to use is going to be for ionic icons, so you can see where it's coming from, so that you know where to import it. And I can just copy this. So here I want to do another thing. So as you can see, we have this prefix for every platform, so it looks different for every platform. So this is what I want to do. So if we are in, I'm going to say refresh icon name, or reload, well, let's call it reload icon name equals. So I'm going to check if we have this property platform.os, and we can check if we are in iOS, we are going to display. So I'm just using a ternary operator. We are going to check, we are going to have the MD material design refresh icon. So it looks a little bit different. And if we are, I'm going to use this if we are in Android, and if we are in iOS, I'm going to use the iOS refresh icon. Well, this will be triggered also because Expo is multi-platform. This will be also triggered if we are in the web or something like that. And here I'm just going to pass that icon. Of course, we don't see anything because we are not using that component. So I'm just going to import reload icon from components / reload icon. And now I can just pass, I'm going to add it also in the main component. So this is going to be a reload icon. And we have it right there. we have to add some styles to this. So as before, I'm going to import style sheet, and I'm going to declare some styles using style sheet that create, and this is going to be our reload icon property. The position is going to be absolute. The top is going to be the same as our previous one, 30. So it's kind of aligned to the previous one. And the right is going to be 20. And here I can just apply that style. Style equals styles that reload icon. And we have it right there. Another property that I can add here is some color. So I'm going to use our colors library utility. So I'm going to import from utils/index the colors. And this is going to be colors that primary color. So we have the icon right there. But there is this icon right now doesn't do anything. So what we need to do is we need to add here, we can have an on press property. So this is like a listener. So every time the user press the button, we're going to have this callback function. And what this function is going to do, we are going to have the same load function that we had before, and I'm just destructing that from the properties, and I'm going to pass this here. So nothing happens yet because we haven't declared past this function. So going back to the app.js file, here I'm going to just pass the load function as a property. So the load function, this load function. So now this should work. And you can see that we are refreshing the page. Of course, the weather haven't changed in that period of time, but you can see that now it works. And finally, we have a bunch of information for this API, and we're going to display that information, like the humidity, the wind speed. We're going to show this right here. Okay, so for having that information, I'm going to create a new component here, and it's going to be called WeatherDetails.js. Let's create a functional component here, and I'm going to import a couple of things here. First, I'm going to import all of our colors from our utils folder, utils/index, and I have these colors. Import this is not like const equals colors, and here we're going to have our primary color, our secondary color, and also we're going to have our border color. So we have our colors, and now let me start declaring that the styles. Style sheet. So the first style that I'm going to have is the main box where everything is going to be. So this is going to be called weather details, lowercase here. Okay, I need to use, of course, the style sheet that create. And here I'm going to have the following. So this is going to go at the end. So I'm going to give it a margin top of auto. So because I wanted this to be at the end, I'm going to give it, and because we have flex here, this will go to the end of the screen with margin auto. I'm going to have a border width of 1 and a border color, and we are going to use our border color constant and a border radius of 10. So of course we're not seeing anything because we haven't applied the style, and we are not using the component in our app.js file. So this is not going to be in the main section. We are going to import the component WeatherDetails from components / WeatherDetails, and I'm going to add it here, right here, after this main component. So I'm going to have the WeatherDetails component right here. So as you can see, we have the component. It doesn't look good, but we have it there. And it does not have look yet, but it's going to look awesome now. And what I want to do now is I'm going to add a margin to every single part of this, and this is going to be to separate this from the other parts. And you can see that now it's separated because we added that margin. So here we need to display the information. And first I'm going to have a row here that's going to have what actually this field feels like, and I'm going to have the humidity. So for doing that, I'm going to use the current weather object that we are going to have from a property, and we are going to pass this here. So we can pass the current weather, and here I'm going to deconstruct what I need. So what I need here is, as before, I'm going to deconstruct this from the current weather object, and here we have the main property, and here we have these fields like property, and we have the humidity. So as you remember, we have this here. So this is all the parameters that we have access. And in the main property, we have this feels like property. This feels like property, that is how it actually this feels. And we have the humidity property. And you can see it here. Well, we need to display this in a row. So for doing that, I'm going to create a new property, a new style property that's going to be weather details row. And in here, I'm going to give it a flex direction. So one thing I didn't mention is that all the view properties and everything in React Native has already, the display flex. So everything is using the flex layout. So that's why we don't need to, like declare in CSS display flex. We can just use the flex properties. So the flex duration, and by default, the flex duration in React Native is column. So in the web is the default behavior is in row, but here is column. So everything is shown behind up and down. So I'm going to change this to row. So we have like one thing here and another here. And I'm going to align the items of this row to the center. And I'm going to justify the content of this row in space between. So now if I add a new view, and I'm just going to copy this twice, and I give it the style that we declare, styles that weather details row. You can see that this is going to every corner. So this is what I wanted. And also this is because we have lined items, this is going to look in the center. So we have that, but now I'm also going to declare a new property. So this is going to be weather details box, and this is going to give us some padding here. So I can say give it a flex of 1, so it takes all the space, and I can give it a padding of 20, and this is what I'm going to wrap every element here. So this is going to have the style of styles that weather detail box, and it's going to have this right here, and I can just duplicate this, and you can see that now we have some padding. We have some padding there, and well, I actually need to have this with humidity. So we have different values here. So we have that, and now I want to have like a border here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to spread these properties, but I'm going to add another one. So this is, well, I have to grab this in an object. So I'm using the properties of the box, and I'm going to add some new properties. So this is going to have border right, because I just wanted to give it to the right width. It's going to be 1, and the border right color is going to be our border color. So as you can see, this is just giving me a different a line here. So I wanted to divide that. So now that we have that, as if you watch the initial project, we had some icons here to display what this means, and first I'm going to import the icons for the properties for Expo icons. So from expo/icons, expo vector icons, I'm going to import the font ASM5 library and the material community icons. So these are the best libraries that I found for these needs, and I can now start using those icons. So the first one is going to be the one for the temperature. So I'm just going to copy paste this here, and this is the icon is for temperature. I'm giving it a size of 25, and the color is our primary color. And you can see that we have the icon that we wanted, but we wanted this to be in two rows. So we have to make another. We are just going to wrap this in another row that we already declared. So I'm just going to copy and paste this here, and you can see that now it looks correct. So I'm just wrapping these two elements in a row that we a style row that we already declared here, and that's why we can have it like this. And I also have another text that it says what this property is doing. So it's a text property, and this is going to say feels like. And you can see that everything shows in the same row, but for making just this look in one row, we can add another view element. So this is just like creating divs in HTML, and now we have that in the same row. And for this, I'm going to add some style. So this is going to have is going to be named WeatherDetails items, and this is just going to it's going to be aligned items. So I want everything to the end. So this is going to be at the end, align items end, and justify content flex end. So we have everything to the right. So we need to apply this right here. Style equals styles that weather detail items, and you can see that now we have everything at the right. One final thing that I want to add here is that for every item is that I want to have a different text here. So I'm going to create that property that's going to be called text secondary. And this is going to have a font size of 15, a color, and our color is going to be our secondary color, a font weight. We're going to add a font weight of 700 and a margin top of 7. So it's like a little bit below here. So we have declared that, and now I'm going to use that here. Style equals styles that text secondary, and you can see that we have this nice color here. So this is how every item is going to look like. So now that we have that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy what we have inside the weather details box. It's inside, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it right here where we have for humidity. I'm going to paste it like right there, and here I'm going to change this to humidity, and it's going to have our humidity property. Humidity. And you can see that now we have that, but we only need to change the icon, and the icon that we are going to use for this is not going to be for font awesome, it's going to be for material community icons, and the name of this icon is going to be water, and we're going also to change the size to 30, and there we have a different icon. So now we have this, and if you watch the initial code, we also have a different row that had the pressure and also have the wind speed. So we are going to have the pressure is coming from the main property. We have the pressure from here, and the wind speed, we have that from the wind property. So we have these properties, and if we look here in the wind speed, we can see that the default value is meters by second in the unit system, and in the imperial system is miles per hour. So we need to handle that. So for doing that, I'm going to go back to the app.js file, and here I'm going to pass the units system property. Units system. So we have the unit system in the component, and what we are going to do is going to say, depending on the unit system, we are going to change the label. So I can say wind speed equals, if we need to read this from the properties. So this is right here, units system. If the units systems equals to metric, we are going to display. I'm also going to use template syntax. So I'm going to set math that. So I want to round this, the speed, and if you remember, the default value is meters by second. So this is in the metric system. So we have this speed value, and otherwise, if we're in the imperial system, this is going to be miles per hour. So I'm going to change that to miles per hour. And now we need to display that. So for displaying, I'm just going to copy paste this row. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it right here. So we have two rows, and I'm going to change some values here. So the feels like is going to be our wind speed, and here we are going to pass the wind speed value that we declared before. And as you can see, we have now the wind speed depending of the unit system. So if we change is miles in the imperial, and here is meters by second, and here we are going to change the pressure, and the pressure we are going to display that here, pressure, and we have the pressure. So actually the pressure is in this unit that HPI, that I don't know what it is, but we are going to display that unit. So it's important that we display the unit. We are not displaying that these are degrees. So let me use this symbol, so we know that this is degrees. We have the degrees symbol there, and I want to, this is percentage. So this is, the humidity is in percentage. And now what is left is just to change the icons. So this wind speed is going to be taken for material community icons, the wind speed, and we are going to use this, the name is going to be weather windy. It's going to be, the size is going to be 30, and here the icon that we are going to be using is called speedometer, and we have the correct icons. And finally, I would like to add a border here. So I'm just going to, in this row, I'm going to spread the properties from the row, and I'm going to add a new property that's going to be border top width of 1, and then we have border top color, and we are going to use our border color. And there we have it, guys. So that's I think that's all that I wanted to cover in this application, and I think it looks really nice. Oh, there's another thing that we might need to add, is that if we have an error, I would also like to have the reload icon. It could be that we don't have a connection, so I don't want to be stuck in that state. So if we have an error, so I will change the URL to a URL that does not exist, and we have this reload icon in case this is not looking good. So let me fix that, and I'm going to, so let me just add an style here. That's going to be text aligned, and this is going to be in center. And finally, there's a thing that I would like to fix. So we have an issue. It's not a real problem, but it's an issue. Is that in the app.js file, we are exposing directly the API key from the API. And we don't want to do that, mainly because this will be exposed in Git or GitHub, and this is like a secret, so nobody should know about this API key. So one way of hiding is creating a .mb file, and we are going to use a package for this. So let's open the terminal, and the package that we are going to use is this one. So I'm using yarn, but again you can use npm install, and this is going to be React Native dot env. So this is a package that allows you to store and manage secrets in your project. So I'm going to add this, and it's going to be a development dependencies. It's only to be in development. And let me install this. So we have installed the package, and now we need to add a file. So I'm going to add a file in the root of our project that's going to be called .env. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this key like this, and this is going to equal this value, right? So we have updated that. And another part here is that we want to open this that git ignore file, and here we are going to add that env. So this will tell git that this is not going to be included in our tree. So this is very important, because that's the reason that we are using this package. And once we have that, now we can go to the app.js file, and instead of declaring this right, oh, there's another thing that we have to do, is that we have to add a configuration in this babel.config.js file. So this comes with a template, and here we want to add this configuration in this presets array. So the configuration that we want is going to be module React Native .env. So we have that, and because we modified this file, we need to restart our server, because this is pick it up every time we start the server. So we need to stop the server, and now I need to restart this. So I'm going to run the script yarn start yarn run start. And now if I reopen the application, we should be picking up this information. Okay, but we need to use this in our app.js file. So the way this works is we just import from React native.mv. We are going to import this weather API key that we declared here. and I'm going to remove this, and now we are importing that from the package. And if I restart, this should work as before. Okay guys, I hope you like this video, and thank you for sticking to the end. If you liked this content, please subscribe to the channel. So I'm planning to doing more React Native videos in the future with Firebase, with with some backend, other features. So stay tuned, and I will see you in the next time.